What is the subconscious mind?
So the subconscious mind is the part of your mind that is not conscious. It's below consciousness. So I was just thinking about this morning actually, and what you've got is what's conscious are your thoughts, feelings, and then your actions, and that's what creates your results, right? So and that's sort of in the conscious world, right? It's saying your conscious experience, right? That's what's conscious, right? But what's unconscious or subconscious is kind of what's generating that, what's generating your thoughts, your feelings, and your thoughts and your feelings are more or less generating your actions, and your actions are generating your results. So, obviously in the health space, you got the way that you think about food, the way you feel about food generates how you eat. How much you eat, and then how much you eat. It generates your weight, your health results. But what's generating those things in the first place, right? And those are things like your physiology, your genetics, right? That's one thing, right? And that's
Of what?
it's what's generating your conscious experience. Your subconscious is generating your conscious experience, right? Some people just don't really care that much for food. They find it annoying to eat. It's not very many people, but some do. So that'd be sort of physiological disposition, right? So anyway, so there's that. But then these are the sort of the more these are something we can interact with a lot more. Okay, these things, and there's your beliefs and understandings, your identity, and your values, right? So I've said some about the genetics, so it's physiological genetic things, right? But genetics are going to influence that. Meaning, if you're like a big person who has you need a lot of food, you need more calories than the average person, then you're going to have much more hunger. So you're going to be more hungry and more of this, right? And to some degree, what you're eating will influence your sort of physiological genetic things. The more sugar that you have, the more that you crave sugar. So that you kind of have some influence over that, but still, it's out of consciousness. It's not something that's conscious, right? So it's relevant to talk about because that you do have some influence over it by the choices that you make. The choices that I make now are going to influence how my physiological genetic factors are going to be influenced, right? And I guess that's the whole point of this conversation, this channel, where I have expertise and have something to say in this space is around this. The point. The thing that I want to get across to the world is the fact that people talk so much about these conscious things because they're the things to talk about. They're easy to talk about, right? To think a certain way, right? Trying to manipulate the way that you think, manipulate sort of your feelings or ignore them, and then or obviously the easiest one to try and really narrow in on is your actions. Change your actions, and then hopefully that will change your results because that's what it looks like. Because we're having a conscious experience in the world, and that's so you just think let's start mucking around with some of those levers. But the fact is that's just unsuccessful. Right? Most people are not getting anywhere with trying to control my thoughts, and then hopefully, or just sort of manage your feelings, and or just trying to use willpower and control your action. It's to get better results. It's just not working, right? Because the whole thing is because there's something deeper that's generating that. That's not conscious. This is why it's so hard to talk about because it's not in this realm. It's in another realm. We're having to talk about the stuff it is literally creating your personality and creating your your day-to-day experience of yourself, right? And it's not something that you chose, and it's not something that you choose or can just choose, right? What we can do is influence these things, though. That's the best we can do, and it's the best thing to do, right? Is to influence the mechanisms and structures that are generating your conscious experience, right? Wouldn't it be much easier to just be tinkering with the elements of subconscious that generate conscious experience, right? So like I said, making choices that you know will influence your physiology, your genetic factors, right? Make choices that are going to influence them for you to naturally feel, to naturally start having thoughts and feelings and then acting in such a way that are going to help.
So would
right?
that be like having smaller portions so you feel fuller when you eat?
Yeah, all the standard tricks, right? All the standard tricks of eating, don't eat processed food so that it doesn't influence your hormones to, trigger more hunger, and all that stuff that you can see on every other channel in this space, like that have all the things. Drink more water, in it.
Sleep.
Yeah, get more sleep. All the standard stuff, right? All the stuff that's on your smartwatch.
What about genetics?
Sleeping better, all that sort of thing, huh?
What about genetics?
Yeah, well, the genetics, that's you pretty much you do the best with what you got. You can't change your height. You can't change your race or your gender. Oh, maybe you can change that, but I can cut that out. I don't want to get too controversial here. But you can't change your chromosomes. How about that? Right? That should be relatively uncontroversial. Right. So that, but again, that is somewhat boring of a conversation to me also, right? But it's worth mentioning because it's still part of the unconscious subconscious complex, right? And listen, they're all influencing each other, by the way. So if you do an action, it'll change how you feel. So it goes back down the line too. So if you do an action, it'll change how you feel. It'll change what you're thinking, right? And then what you think, and then it goes back into and then that'll be influencing your identity and your physiology. All these things, they're all influencing each other at the same time. It's not like a domino. I mean, it can be, but they're all kind of working at the same time, influencing each other all through the space, right? So, but the interesting ones for us to talk about are things like identity and values, and then our understandings and beliefs, right? So, if I have an identity as a fit, muscular person, right? Then I'm gonna have a set of motivations that naturally emerge, right? My identity tells me I need to be. If I start to lose some muscle or something, then I'll be motivated to go and do, start training again, start doing that. If I start to get too overweight, then and I start to put on too much, and my belly starts sticking out too much, I start feeling anxious. I start feeling uncomfortable, and I'm motivated to go and do something. I didn't choose that. I didn't have to go, I gotta think, I want to do more of this or that. I didn't have to manipulate myself. It's just my identity naturally triggered me to think and to feel, and then to act, and then from that you act, right? So, it's same as if I feel like I'm overweight, and that what's the point anyway? I mean, that would be something about beliefs, right? So there's beliefs and understandings. My understandings, and inside of beliefs and understandings is stuff like self-esteem. If I don't believe that it's possible, then I don't even bother. So if I don't believe that it's possible, then my motivation is really low, because I'm like, well, what's the point? Who cares? Like, so I'm just naturally. But that's the thing. I can say to myself, do some incantations and just, oh no, I do believe in myself. If I don't believe in myself, I don't fucking believe in myself, right? It's not. It is what it is. I can't just choose to change that. You can't. Like, it's like you have to go and get evidence for it. Right, so or have experiences that prove it to you. Like, it just becomes undeniable, and there's a deep internal unconscious subconscious shift Like it just it happens. And that's the thing. So this is what the channel is about. This is what my message is about. Let's tinker in the subconscious space to have the natural, mechanisms of consciousness just be like, you don't need to be constantly trying to micromanage all the conscious elements of thoughts and feelings and behaviors. You don't have to, because what you're working on is the generating function. It's the motor of those things. Those things just naturally emerge from physiology, beliefs and understandings, values and I think that was it. So yeah, but beliefs and understandings, values and identity. Sorry, values and identity. Right. So so what you value, right, is like, if I value health, I mean, people who become obsessed, but enjoy their health. So they start exercising, they start enjoying exercise, and then all of a sudden they start valuing, like, personal example, just to try and make sense. Like, when I started doing kickboxing, right, I'd say, like, at first I didn't have any interest in it, I didn't know about it, I didn't, had no experience there at all. I had no motivation and no inspiration to do it because I hadn't done it. And then, but then I did it once, I really enjoyed it, and then I wanted to do it again. And then all of a sudden, I'm I have this natural drive to just do more. And then I start valuing it. It starts becoming important to me. All right, now I'm not pushing myself to, I've got to do that. It's like, I'm trying so hard to manage my action, manage how I feel and think about it. I'm not. It's just, I just want to do it. Right? It's because it's become a value. It's become something I want, and I couldn't have just sat there and gone, make myself want this thing. Like, it's you either are inspired to do it because you're valuing it now and you're enjoying it, or you don't. Like, so, and again, so it's not just about willing that. You cannot will your unconscious mind. You can't will any. We don't have direct access to it. There's no direct access. We only have indirect access to it. Right? So it would be things like I said, having experiences. Having, like, as in, to build self-esteem, you can't just decide it. It just doesn't work. You can lie to yourself. You can yell over the top of the abuse that you generally give yourself, right? And say, no, I really do believe in you, or whatever. But you're lying to yourself. That doesn't work, right? You have to go out there and do something that you would deem as worthy of respect, and then when you do that, you respect yourself, right? So I have to organize, do something that I was afraid to do, and then I start to respect myself, right? But I had to go and do the action to get the self-respect. So we have to be operating in a space that we can actually do those indirect things to create unconscious shifts or subconscious shifts. And the more that you tinker with these things, the more that you naturally just start to do these things. And there was something that's interesting to mention about this is that it's constantly in flux. It is always changing, whether you like it or not. Your identity is always changing, right? So, just to make an easy example to understand, is that regardless, like, whether you like it or not, there are some parts that will carry on, right? But the thing is, like, for example, even if you see yourself as a kid when you're a kid, right? You see yourself as an infant or whatever. You see, and then when you become a teenager, you feel like a teenager. When you become, when you're in your 20s, you're a young adult. When if you're geriatric, you're a senior now or whatever, like, your identity will just naturally shift now that if you feel old. I'm an old person now, or I'm a young person, or if you do a particular sport and you've done it for a long time, you feel like, okay, yeah, I'm a kickboxer, or I'm a soccer player, or I'm a whatever. you don't necessarily choose those identities. They will naturally be changing, and that will be influencing what the kind of thoughts you have, the kind of feelings you have, and the kind of actions you tend to do. Right. So, like, whether you like it or not, like your identity and what you're valuing. I mean, naturally, that from when you're an infant to when you're a teenager to when you're a young adult to when you're an adult. You can't, like, you will naturally have the things that you value change, the things that are important to you change. And it'll happen. It happens unconsciously. It's all happening in the unconscious space. But when you're paying attention, you can actually just start to track these things a bit more and just map the way that you're at. Map not the things that you want to value, but the things you actually value, the things that are actually important to you, and the beliefs that you actually have. You might say, "Oh, I believe that anything is possible," but then you might just be lying to yourself as to what you think is possible. And that's the thing, you've got to get clear. You've got to have a huge amount of self-honesty and self-awareness, right? No lying to yourself, none of it. Like, you have to be totally down with. You have to be totally able to clear the deck and see reality. See reality. See yourself for who you are. See reality for what it is. And I mean, just coming to mind that, to do all those things, you need to have a lot of sort of self-compassion as well, and understanding. This comes back to understandings too, right? So the understandings is that if you understand how your unconscious mind works, understand how values and identity work, and how those things work, you have a different relationship with it, right? So the access to the unconscious is relating to it. It's not. It cannot be controlled as much as your partner can be controlled. I don't know if some people think they can do that, but it's like, at the end of the day, you have to show your unconscious and your subconscious the things like, that you can do things, and that this is important and this does matter. Like, you have to be in a relationship with it and respect it.